Hi there, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Hope everyone can hear me okay.
Hello.
So just to welcome everybody, we're going to give, because we did have 35 people register, so we might just get another minute or so. Colin is our marketing communications, so he's on the call helping me today. So just he'll keep an eye on the waiting room and add some people. So today is the national launch event for the EUCF, which is the European City Facility Fund. It's co-funded by the European Union. So today is just a launch and an information session on the EUCF, what it's about, how to apply, and the evaluation criteria, etc. So I would ask that and Colin started the recording there, so you should all have got a pop-up message there. So the information session is recorded and it will be sent on to you afterwards, and it is will be made public. If I can just ask again, we were expecting quite a few people on the call today, so if you can please turn your mics onto mute, or mute your mics. I don't mind if you have cameras on or not, that's up to you, but if you could just mute your mics, please. If you can type all the questions into the chat, we will then have a questions and answer session at the end of today's session. So if you have a question as you go along, as I go along, please just type it into the chat, and myself and Colin then at the end, when we've gone through all of the slides, we can go through them one by one and answer them. If I don't know the answer to your question, we will of course find it out and get back to you after the session. Perfect. So the purpose of the EUCF, so the European City Facility, and again, today is just a general information session. We will be having future sessions coming up, more details. We can also have one-on-one sessions. Today is the general kind of launch of the funding and general information. So why is the funding here? Why is this program? So it's been estimated that there's about €3 billion across EU funding that is going to be needed for the public sector to meet its 2030 targets. The public finances can't fund the entire investment needs, okay? So it's been estimated that about 10 to 15% of that will come from your own public sector funding and your own funding budgets. So it's therefore estimated that a good 85 to 90% of that has to come from private funding sources, okay? So there is a real need to attract and trigger this private finance and investment from the private sector in order to bridge the gap, or how are we going to deliver all of the projects that we want to deliver to meet our 2030 and 2050 targets. We can't afford it all ourselves, so we do need to trigger this investment. So that's really that's the purpose of this specific European City Facility program. It's to help you to bridge that gap in the financing of the projects. Currently, there's been identified a number of barriers as to why this isn't happening already. So again, you know, some of you and a lot of you will have your either some kind of sustainable energy action plan or sustainable energy and climate action plan over the years. You know where you are now, you know where we all need to be by 2030 and by 2050. So why aren't we attracting in that private finance already? So I guess in general, and there's a number of reasons, and again, different barriers across different EU countries, but in general, there's been a conservative approach from local authorities, and you as local authorities in general don't have time to develop fully the investment concept projects that are required in order for us to attain and attract in that private investment. Also, in general, we have an annual budget cycle here. So it's very much a what can we get done on an annual basis with the budgets that we have. So we're getting, you know, I'm going to say smaller, low-hanging fruit projects done over the last few years in terms of our energy projects. There's also been a gap between the funding streams and what the local authorities actually need. So again, in terms of that annual budget or that annual cycle, what are the type of projects that can be invested in or funded by other funding streams? So there can sometimes be a bit of a gap here. One of the main gaps and one of the main barriers we have found, and other EU countries have found, is that we need to be able to speak the language of the financial investors. Okay, so in general, we are technical energy engineers, or we're technical members of the local authority team, and we have our plans and we have our energy efficiency projects or renewable projects lined up, and we're quite technical. And it's really a completely different language that the financial investors and the financial investment sector uses. So it's really, really important that we bridge that gap. And that's what, to get that common language between ourselves and the project delivery side and the financial sector. That's really one of the main aims of the EUCF funding. So it's to specifically help you develop what we call the investment concept, okay? So again, what is the potential project pipeline? What are the market barriers? Do that analysis. What is the current market? What are the barriers in terms of delivering those projects? Legal analysis. What kind of legal contracts do we need in order to enter into these large investment projects? Again, as local authorities, we or public sector bodies, we're not experts in financial concepts. We're not experts in legal concepts, etc. So again, this specific support is there to help us bridge that gap. So there's a specific €60,000 worth of funding that's front loaded. So you get it up front, €60,000, and it's specifically to help you to develop the full investment concept. There are two main barriers specifically that this investment program is looking at supporting you with. Two main barriers are the financial and legal capacity of you as a local authority to transform your long-term energy and climate plans into the investment concepts. Again, you've got your plans. How do we put that into the investment language for a financial investor to invest in? And also lack of aggregation of the smaller projects. Okay, so it's really important to make it as attractive for the financial sector as possible. If we go with one or two buildings and one or two small energy projects, that's not attractive on a financial investment basis. So again, what we want to do, and this fund will help us to do, is aggregate all of those projects to make it much more attractive for the financial sector to invest in. What is an investment concept? Okay, so this is the output, and this is the deliverable of the project. This is what the funding is to help you to do. And basically, as I mentioned earlier, it's to translate that project idea into financial language. Okay, so the investment concept is a pre-feasibility study, and it includes the identification of the potential project pipeline, the market barriers, the local stakeholders, help you do some legal analysis, governance analysis, and also to do the basic financing strategy, and therefore the roadmap. What is the actual roadmap for implementation? So again, we have our plans, we have our targets, where do we need to be, and it's all of the actual steps in between that's going to help us roadmap it to actual delivery of our plans. These will be key to implement the projects either directly in case of some more simple investment types. So again, if there are more simple projects, and again, where there's it's easier to go for funding, either national funding or different types of funding, okay? Or if you need to go for more complex or innovative programs, okay? So there are plenty of EU funding instruments available there, and in order to access the more complicated ones, we need to have this investment concept. So examples of EU-funded instruments include the European Fund of Strategic Investment, so the EFSI, the European Structural and Investment Funds, which is the ESIF, very similar, various project development assistance grants, so PDAs. Again, some of you may have in the past applied for PDA funding. In essence, this particular funding is a miniature PDA funding, so project development assistance grant. And also from that, then you can go for bigger funding through ELENA. Again, some of you will have heard of the ELENA funding, which comes through the European Investment Bank. Okay, so there's just a few examples. One example of a project I'm sure that most of you are aware of is the streetlight project. That started off back in 2015, 2016. as an EU project development assistance programme. There was a pilot streetlight project delivered in Kilkenny that then went to the regional area office where the RMO was set up. The RMO took that pilot project.
Sorry, dear Alex.
For Elena funding. Yes.
Just a quick message in the chat. Should the slide say investment concept, or should you have moved forward?
No, I'm still on that slide. Yep.
Perfect. Okay.
Yep. Perfect. Yep. So the streetlight project that's being delivered nationally now started off as a small investment concept project that is now being delivered nationally. So there's a very real example of what this type of money can help us deliver. The end result, so again, this funding will be an investment concept report. So there's a picture there on the screen, but that is the end result that you will need to deliver as part for this funding. So the end result is a document that outlines the entire project idea and translates it into that financial language, so that the investment financiers, the investment institutions, etc., can understand what it is that the project is trying to do and then evaluate it on its overall viability. So the 5th call is now open. So that's today's launch. It's been open for a couple of weeks now across Europe, and we're launching it here now in Ireland. The deadline, and it's a short open period. The deadline is June 30th, 5 o'clock Brussels time. Okay, so it's all Brussels time. So again, we have seen in the past submissions from Ireland missing or getting the time wrong. So just be very aware that it's Brussels time. So there's €60,000 funding that's available towards the development of your investment concept. And the key areas there's financial support to get the investment concept developed. Again, that end report, that's the end result. But there's also some technical supports that you can get if you need to ensure that the technical viability of the project is also there. So we need the financial viability of the project to be there in that financial language to get the investment. But actually, in order to do that, the technical the project needs to work on a technical level as well. So there's supports both from financial and technical services that €60,000 can go towards. The call is split across Europe in three different regions. We are part of the Nordic countries and Western Europe. So you can see I've highlighted there the middle. So there is 1.08 million or 18 investment concepts that will be financed under this call. So we're in countries there. You can see Austria, Belgium, Denmark, Finland, France, Germany, Iceland, Ireland, Luxembourg, Netherlands, and Sweden. So there's about 11 countries there. Out of those 11 countries, there will be applications, and 18 of the applications will be funded under this call. So the benefits, of course, there's financial support. Okay, the financial support of €60,000 goes towards both in-house development, so your own in-house staff costs, and also your consultancy supports. Okay, so again, different to some other national programs, this will fund in-house staff costs, and as well as consultancy costs or your subcontractor costs. Specifically, it's really there for your needs. So it's really tailored for what it is that you need in order to get that investment concept delivered. What is it that you need? And this €60,000 can go towards it. It is a lump sum. It's funded as a lump sum. As well as the 60,000 funding, the network support through the EU City Facilities members is also offered. Okay, so there's two main other supports. There's what we call the communities of practice and training. Okay, so you'll actually be given a financial analysis tool and training on how to use it. So the financial tool will allow you to take the financial analysis of your projects and start to look at it from the investment analysis point of view. Okay, so there is a tool that will be given to you and training on how to use it. There's also, and most importantly, peer-to-peer learning events. Okay, so again, we're not all trying to reinvent the wheel here. We all have the same targets. We all have the same or similar ideas, not only nationally, but with our European partners. So there will be peer-to-peer learning events that will be organised, and that can assist in passing on specifically lessons learned from other partners. There's also what we call the matchmaking support, and again, this is critical in terms of who it is that you're going to go towards. So we'll facilitate the matchmaking and connecting you with the actual financial stakeholders and the financial investment institutes, etc. So this is a critical piece. Once you have your investment concept, who is it that you're going to work with? And through the EUCF, we will matchmake and put those connections together. So what support is there for you? Again, there's the EUCF team, and we in the South East Energy Agency are what is called country experts, and we are also the national hub. Okay, so if you have any queries on this particular program, if you need support in drafting the application for the program, okay, then we are the national experts in the national hub, so we are your contacts. Okay. Now, some of you may well know myself and Colin from outside this particular program. It is very, and you can contact us anytime, but it is very critical when it comes to this program that if you have any specific queries or you need support for this program, you have to use this EU email address, please, for any queries in relation to the EUCF funding. So it's ce.ireland@eucityfacility.eu. Okay, so I know that some of you on the call know us, and of course we're here to support you at all times, but specifically for this program, please make sure that you contact us directly through this particular email address. The types of supports that we can give. So again, we've got the National Help Desk. So again, everything has to come through that email address that I've just mentioned, and it's forwarded on to myself and Colin. Okay, so there's guidance. We can provide guidance in drafting and submission of the application form. I'm going to go through the application form or the main steps. I won't go through the application form itself. I go through the main areas of the application. Once you are on the system and once you have started drafting your application, if you need any specific assistance, we can help you. We can check the quality of the application prior to submission. Okay, so if we think that there's something missing, or if we think that you need to include something, or if you're not sure if you're ready for it yet, we can help you at the start. We can also help you check the eligibility. Okay, and this is, again, I'm going to talk about the eligibility in a second. This is the first step of what you need to do. Are you even eligible to apply for this grant funding? We'll also be holding a number of national information sessions. So again, today is one of those, and we'll have a few other ones. Coming on down the months, we will also have tailored training sessions. Okay, so we have to have a minimum of 2. We will most likely have a few more, but we will be doing some specific training sessions on the key elements of the application form. Okay, so there's very specific, and I'll go through, as I said, the main elements of the application form in a few minutes. What we will do is later on, we will have specific training on the breakdown of the application form. There will also be conference calls once you have the investment concept application successful and you have been awarded the funding. Then there's further supports that you will get through from us as the national support. I won't talk about those today because mostly today is about the application. So the eligibility, there are 5 main eligibility criteria. Okay, so the very first thing that you need to do is go on to the eucityfacility.eu website, and there is a link that says check eligibility. There are 5 eligibility criteria. You have to answer yes. You have to answer yes to all 5 questions in order to be eligible. Okay, so if you answer no to any of these questions, then you are not eligible for the group. The main one I've highlighted here, I'll talk about in a second, but the other ones are you a municipality or local authority, or are you a grouping of local authorities? I'll talk about that a bit in a second as well. So most of you, or yes, is the answer to everybody on today's call, because it's for local authorities. So local authorities is a yes. Is your municipality and local authority or group a member of the EU 27 member states? So yes, we are. Will you be able to provide proof of political commitment? Okay, so again, you need to be able to have a letter of support or a letter of commitment from, again, in general, across Europe. The word mayor is slightly different in some EU countries, but again, a letter of support from the mayor or from political elected representatives within the local authority area. So you need to have a letter of political commitment. And do you commit to EUCF monitoring period? So after the project, you have to monitor and track your investment concept for a period of 2 years. So that's you know, a tick box, yes. The main other one that we get asked questions on is, do you have a sustainable energy and climate action plan? Okay. So if you're a member of the Covenant of Mayors, which many of you are, then you will most likely have in the past submitted a Sustainable Energy Action Plan or a Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan, or a CCAP as it's called. And that's a plan that shows, again, outlines your targets for 2030 in terms of energy and climate action. So if you're a member of Covenant of Mayors and you have submitted a CCAP, then you are eligible, okay? But the main question we get is, well, if we're not a member of Covenant of Mayors and we don't have our CCAP, are we still eligible? So the eligibility says, or if you don't have a CCAP, do you have your own local climate and energy plan? Okay, and it has to outline mitigating targets. Okay, so do you have any other local climate energy plan, and do you have mitigation targets? For example, do you have greenhouse gas targets? Do you have energy saving targets? Do you have renewable production targets? Okay, so again, in general, all of you at the moment are working on your local authority climate action plans, your decarbonisation zone action plans. Okay, so those will 100% be eligible. Okay, so if you don't have, a lot of you and some of you will also have other plans. Okay, so it's if you have any local climate and energy plan with mitigating targets. So if you have a local authority plan of some sort that outlines, well, what are the mitigating targets? What are your greenhouse gas targets? What are your energy targets, for example, by 2030 or by 2025 or whatever year it is? If you have a plan that outlines something like that, it does not have to be a Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan, a CCAP, but some kind of plan. Again, if you're unsure, then please contact us and we will assist you. If you're working on your local authority and climate action plans and your DZs right now, and you don't have something else previously, then you may not, or you most likely, because I know you're working on your plans now, you most likely won't be ready for the 30th of June, okay? There are 2 other calls, and I've just put these dates up. These are tentative dates, okay? So these are on the EUCF website. There will be a 6th call in early 24, and then there will be a 7th and final call at the end of 2024. So if you do not have, because it's a mandatory that you submit your Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan with the application, so you have to submit the plan. If you don't have a plan right now ready for 30th of June, I know you're all working on them and most likely will have them certainly done for the next calls. Application as a grouping, okay? So I'm going to say again, it's quite similar to the Pathfinder funding that again some of you will be working on at the moment. So it's about grouping local authorities, okay? And it's actually again through this program highly encouraged to do so, okay? So groupings of local authorities come together with your investment concept idea, okay? And it's going to reach across a number of counties or across a region, okay? It's similar in essence to what is happening with Pathfinder in terms of it's not the capital investment cost of the project, it's the investment concept, and it's the project development concept of the actual project. When you come together as a group of local authorities, it allows you, again, and I mentioned it earlier, to aggregate these smaller investment projects. Okay, so the aim here is to get your investment concept and to make it as attractive as possible for the investment institutes. And obviously, the bigger the investment, the more attractive it is. So aggregating these smaller investment projects as a group of local authorities is highly encouraged because it does make it more, more attractive. The relationships of the grouping, so this is quite, and again, it's similar enough to Pathfinder, it must be very clear. It must be very clearly outlined, the relationship between the groupings. There will be one lead local authority, okay, which again is similar to Pathfinder. The CCAP, or the Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan that I mentioned a few minutes ago, can be a regional plan, or if the lead local authority has a CCAP and has a plan, that is sufficient. So if you are a group of 4 or 5 local authorities and only one of you has a CCAP or has a plan in existence, then I would suggest that they are the lead local authority. So if you group together as a group of local authorities, you don't all have to have your CCAPs, but certainly at a minimum, the lead local authority has to. I'm going to skip to this one because again, it's are you a local public entity? Again, certainly the majority of you on the call today should be local authorities, so the answer is yes. If there are other public bodies on the call today and you're unsure if this is eligible to you, again, please come to us and contact us separately. But again, that there is very clear guidelines as to what makes a public body or a local public a public entity. So again, I'm just going to reiterate two mandatory sections. So there's 5 eligibility criteria. 3 of them, those are pretty much tick box yes. Yes, you're a local authority. Yes, you're a member of the EU, and yes, you're going to allow monitoring for 2 years afterwards. The other 2 then are do you have these, and these are mandatory, and you have to submit these at application stage. So do you have an action plan, and do you have political commitment? When it says proof, in other words, what it's looking for is a letter of commitment. So I'm just going to talk briefly about the application now. And excuse me there, I have a bit of a tickly throat, too much talking. So we'll just have a quick look at the application again. And I've already spoken about the eligibility criteria. So the very, very first step is you go onto the website and see, are you eligible? Okay, and if you answer no to any of the 5 questions, then you're automatically not eligible and you can't go any further in the application process. Okay. I'm going to go through the 4 main stages of the application here. So once you're eligible, it will allow you into the next stage of the portal to do your online application. I'll talk also about the evaluation criteria. Very important, and there's detailed evaluation criteria available that you look at this. What is it that they are evaluating you on, and therefore make sure that you are answering the correct questions within your application form to maximize the score that you're getting. If you are successful then, and the last stage is the grant agreement, which I'm not going to go into any detail today. I'm going to talk mostly about the application. So the application form, there are 4, as I said, 4 main elements, and I'm going to go through each one individually. And I've already talked about the 2 mandatory supporting documents, which is your climate action plan and your letter of support for political commitment. So we have the identification of the applicant, so who are you, political commitment, proposed investment project, and the use, what are you going to use the funding for? So I'm just going to go through them in a bit more detail here. So number 1 is the identification of the applicant. So who are you? So basically it's the information of who you are as a local authority, or if you're a group of local authorities, of your local authorities. So you must include the local authority code. Okay, so each of you will have a local authority code and the NUTS 3 code as per the Eurostat. If you are unsure of your local authority code or your NUTS 3 in terms of the Eurostat, excuse me, and in terms of funding from EU, then again we can support you with that. But that is, they're 2 obviously mandatory. You need to know your LAU code and your NUTS 3 code. Again, there's other elements, just the name of the local authority, your tax identification numbers, population size of the county that you're a local authority for, and various other sections. Who is the main contact within the organisation, who within the department, address, phone number, etc. So step 1, fairly simple. It's the who are you. The 2 main ones that you may get stuck on is the LAU code and the NUTS 3 code, and we can assist you with those if you are unsure. The second section then is the political commitment, which again I've gone over in a bit of detail. So you have to upload the energy plan, so that has to be uploaded as part of this application, and you also have to upload the political commitment or the letter of support from either the mayor or your local representatives, your local TD or whoever it is. Okay, so these are two mandatory and you have to upload them. Okay, again, I'm not going to talk about this. If you are unsure, if you are not a local authority and you need to provide proof that you are a public entity, then there's another section there. But again, from who should be on the call today, that is not relevant to any of you. Section 3 then is the main chunk of the application, okay, and this is the detail of what is happening. I'm going to go and I will talk a little bit about the evaluation criteria in a minute. I won't go into too much detail, but I will talk briefly about it. We will send on a link following this webinar with the link specifically to the evaluation criteria, because the evaluation criteria will go through what is required for each of these sections in quite a bit of detail, more than what I'm going to say today. So as you go through the application form in this proposed investment project in section 3, this is the main crux of what you're going to be evaluated on. So make sure that the information is there, make sure it's clear and concise and understandable. Okay, so what is the project? What is it that you're trying to do? And what are the aims and objectives? You have to link all of the information back to the action plan that you have submitted. So your energy action plan that you have submitted with your mitigation target, okay, all of the detail that you're putting in about your project has to refer back to the actual plan. What are the sectors that you're targeting? Okay, who are the stakeholders? What's the engagement strategy again? Okay, so it's really important that there's a large, and again in the evaluation criteria, a large section of you know, who is it that you're engaging with? Who are the stakeholders in your project, and how are you going to engage with them? What measures are you intending to actually deliver? What is the cost of this? And how will this impact the mitigation target? So again, we're linking it back to our plan and the mitigation target. How much is your target going to be impacted, or how big an ambitious project is this towards that target? Okay, the expected impacts, the expected size of the investment, and most importantly, okay, and this is the crux of it all, and the main point of the investment concept, is the potential for replication and or upscaling. Okay, so again, very similar. I'm going to put it back to, some of you may know a little bit more about the Pathfinder program. So again, very similar. What is the potential for replication? We're all local authorities working towards the same targets, with the same type of buildings, with the same types of energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. How are we going to learn from each other? What is the replication across not only your own building stock and your own emissions, but also amongst the other local authorities? Okay, the leverage factor is absolutely critical in terms of the investment concept. So section 3 is really the main section of the application, and does need a good bit of consideration. Again, tie it back to not only your energy plan, but also look at the evaluation guidelines, which we will pass on to you. Very detailed. There's a number of questions that the evaluators look at, and if you haven't answered their questions clearly within this section of the application, then they cannot score you on it. Number 4 then, again, is looking at what are you going to use the €60,000 for? Okay, and there's a selection of activities that are funded under the grant. So it's a drop-down menu, I think, and you will be able to choose the activities. Well, this is what we're going to be doing with the money in terms of, for example, legal analysis or legal advice, or contract advice, or whatever it is. So for technical supports in terms of the project delivery, etc. So there's a list of activities that you get to choose. You also have to outline who prepared the application. Okay, have you done it yourself as a local authority, or did you get consultants to prepare the application? So again, it's just it's a question that they ask that you need to answer in section 4. So again, these are some of the points to assist you based on past applications that were unsuccessful. A few kind of key areas came up that the EUCF have just pointed out across the EU countries. Make sure that you answer these questions properly. So at least one mitigating target that's outlined in the plan must be outlined, okay? So again, you're uploading your energy action plan. You've got mitigating targets. You've got, for example, 51% carbon reduction. So within this project, what is it that you're targeting? So you have to link your project to at least one of the mitigating targets in your plan. And literally what they mean by that is state what page in the report that you've uploaded has that mitigating target. Where is the target written in your plan that you are identifying to, and literally link it with the page. Make it very, very clear for the evaluator. The evaluator is going to have projects from all across Europe, and he, as I said, and we'll pass it on, they have a list of questions that they're going to be answering, going through your application, and if you make it as easy as possible for them to go, yes, that's there, yes, that's linked to your mitigating target because you have told them it's on page 55 or whatever it is of the action plan that you've submitted, it just makes it much, much easier for them. The investment costs and the impacts are to be input measure by measure. Okay, so there's a table. Again, going back to this one here. So what is the intended measures, the expected size of the investment, and the expected impact? So what are the savings, for example, associated with the measures? Okay, so it's, you put them in table measure by measure. The application form will then automatically add everything up. Okay, so you put it in measure by measure, and the table will, excuse me, will automatically calculate the overall impact and the investment size. Energy efficiency is key. Okay, so it's the energy efficiency projects will be prioritized. Okay, so they're appreciated in the evaluation of criterion 1, which is the ambition of the proposed investment project. So energy efficiency projects will be favored. Again, from the governance structure and the stakeholder engagement strategy, they have to be very, very clearly described. It has to be very clear to the evaluator. Again, for example, if you're a group of local authorities, who is the lead local authority? What is the relationship with the other local authorities? And what is the governance structure that is defining that? Very similarly with your stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders that are key to the successful delivery of the project, and how are you going to engage with them? So these two areas need, again, just to be thought about and need to be very clearly outlined. So again, if you want to use some infographics to show that or whatever, again, it just has to be very clear what is the structure that you as a consortium are putting together. And lastly, incoherent and unrealistic figures. Okay, so the figures have to be realistic. If you've got unrealistic figures basically, and they don't make sense and they don't add up, or they don't relate to your plan, or they don't make sense, and you're kind of overthinking it or whatever, overestimating it. Again, the evaluator is going to look at it and go, that's made up, or that's not realistic, and you won't be scored. So they do have to be realistic. They have to be plausible, and the evaluators will look at the figures that you put down. Mandatory documents, again, I'm not going to go over those. We've mentioned them a number of times there. There is a template, okay, for the letter of support. There is a template that is available if you need, and the other one is the energy action plan. Just last few slides now on the evaluation. So again, I've mentioned very specific evaluation criteria that we will pass on. Do read them, because as I've mentioned, the evaluators have a number of questions, and they're all provided within the guidelines as to what they are looking for and what they are going to score you on. Okay. We as national experts, we are not included in the evaluation process. Okay, so it's an independent team of evaluators. Once the closing date, so the 30th of June, there is a 2-month evaluation period, and the results will be given to you by email. Again, there are 4 evaluation criteria, and the points there that are available for each one can be seen there. Within the guidelines, as I mentioned, there are very specific questions under each of these headings as to what the evaluator is looking for. Okay. The main criteria here and the largest section here, so there's a total of 20 points. 7 points is for the ambition of the proposed project. Okay, so you know, what are the actual figures that you're looking at? What is the size of the project? What is the impact of that project? What is the effectiveness of that project? And therefore, we mentioned it already, aggregating a number of smaller projects so that the ambition and the size and the scale of that project is larger and more ambitious is again going to score you higher points. Okay, so again, it has to be very, very detailed and you know, impacts per capita. So again, within the application, it asks you for the number of population within your local authority area, for example. So all of this is looked at, and this is the main, how ambitious is the project going to be? Again, I've mentioned it already, the governance and stakeholder engagement. These two are very similar. They're both worth 5 marks, and the evaluator is looking for exactly the same thing for each one. And it's the quality and the clarity of the governance structure and the stakeholder engagement. So who is leading? Who needs to be involved in the project? How are you engaging with those people? It needs to be clear, it needs to be understandable, and the same elements are looked at for both. Okay, so there's 5 points each. Mentioned already then the coherence and plausibility. So how realistic are your figures? Have you plucked figures out of the air and they make no sense at all, or are they actually linked back to that target? Back to the targets that are outlined in your mitigation or in your energy and action plan. So how plausible, how realistic are your figures? So again, very specific questions must be answered. We will pass on the list of questions that the evaluator looks at so that you know when you're going through each of these sections exactly what it is that, excuse me, that they're looking for. The maximum is 20 points, okay, but you have a threshold of 50%, so you need a minimum of 10 points. Now, unfortunately, that is not a minimum of 10 points if you score 0 in section 1 and 5 and 5 in section 2 and 3. You have a minimum 50% across each of the sections. So in other words, you need a minimum of 3.5 points, you need a minimum of 2.5, 2.5, and 1.5. Okay, so it's a minimum of 50% scoring in each of the sections for you to get through. So again, that's the brief outline of the evaluation and the entire journey then. So again, pre-application, this is the stage we're at now, okay? We'll be holding another few national events. The EUCF website has a lot of information, okay? Everything that I've talked about comes from the EUCF website. There are videos on the website, there are guidelines. So a lot of the information that I give, and all of the information that I give is available on the EUCF website. There is a number of EU events plus some of our own national information events like today. So this is the stage we're at now. Application then, again, do the eligibility check. That's the first thing. Are you eligible to apply? Look at the full application, okay? As I said, we've gone through that in detail. We are here to support you through that application process. Again, please contact us through that email address that we gave you. Successful applications go on to the next stage, which we're not going to talk about today because that's the following on. We'll have more information events about that for those who are successful. If you are rejected applications, you can go to the help desk. You will get details as to what was wrong with the application, and you will get full details of your score and your evaluation so that you can find out how to improve it. And again, as I mentioned, there are 2 calls coming up. So that is, I know that I've talked for quite a while there. There's a lot of information there, and stop sharing. So thanks very much for your patience. We've got about 10 minutes or so available for questions and answers. So if anybody, I can see that there's a few questions there. So Colin, I don't know if you, let me see. So Derry, hi there. Hi, should the slides, oh, sorry, no, that's okay. Derry, how do investors benefit from providing finance? They make money out of it. They're investing in something and they'll make money. That's the answer there, Mary. So it's and hence the reason that it has to be this whole funding is to take that project and put it into a full investment concept report. It's to make it attractive for investors. They're investors, they want to make money. So I'm not sure if we have any other questions. Please type, or if you want to, you can I think you can raise your hands, can you? Or if you want to unmute, we've got another few minutes. The slides will be sent on to you. Colin will also, as I said, will send on the evaluation criteria. Any questions or queries, please email through the EUCF website, and we will contact you as quickly as possible and get back onto you.
There's a hand raised.
Yeah, hi there.
Hi, yeah, I'm just wondering about are there double funding restrictions? So like if projects are involved in like I'm with Dunleary Rathdown, so some of our buildings will be involved in delivery, which is a separate European project.
Yep.
So if we were looking to get involved, would we be better off at looking at buildings that aren't already involved with that, captured with that? Is there like double funding restrictions and all that sort of thing?
Yeah, I would suggest so. That one's already been funded elsewhere, but also just to be very clear, this is not capital investment for project delivery. This is €60,000 towards the investment concept report. So it's very clear. So I know the delivery project, so I'm not sure what stage it's at. There is, when you talk about double funding, no, we can't double fund projects, but if one project is getting funded, let's say 50%, and the €60,000 can go towards another part of that project that isn't being, the other 50% or whatever, and that's fine. Obviously, you can't double fund in terms of you can't make money off funding, but that's the same with most of the projects. Does that make sense, Phil?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, I would think that. I mean, I think delivery will probably only end up capturing a couple of our bigger buildings, but I would think there'd be scope there for doing like an aggregation of, say, buildings within the communities, so like community centres and libraries, and do some sort of bundling like that.
Yes, absolutely. It's exactly that kind of thing. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Cheers. Thanks very much.
No problem. Any other questions? As I said, we're here. Please contact us through the email address. We will send these through, and we will be hosting another number of events, probably another one before the application deadline, to go through a bit more detail for anybody who wants. We can of course give one-on-one support, and we will. So if you need one-on-one support, contact us through that email address, and we will contact you separately. And then following this particular call, which I know is closing in 4 weeks' time, so it is a quick turnaround. But as I said, there are 2 other calls that we will have a lot more time to work with you going forward to make sure that everybody's ready for the future calls. This one kind of came a little bit out of the blue from the EUCF to us in the last couple of weeks. So that's just where we're at. But we'll try and support you all as much as possible over the next few weeks. Okay, thank you very much. If there's no other questions, then we'll leave it at that. And thank you very much for coming along.